before we begin our journey through the golden dunes and beneath the violet skies, let us take a moment to center ourselves. Find a comfortable place to sit or lie down where you can allow your body to relax completely. There's planes going in the skies. Now, take a deep breath in through your nose, letting the air fill your lungs fully and deeply. Hold for just a moment, and then gently exhale through your mouth, feeling the tension leave your body with the breath. Repeat this 2 more times. Inhale deeply, hold, release. Inhale deeply, hold, release. Do it in your own pace. 2 more times. As you continue to breathe slowly and deeply, bring your attention to the top of your head. Feel the warmth and relaxation spreading from your scalp down through your forehead, softening the muscles around your eyes, loosening your jaw, and releasing any tightness in your neck and shoulders. Allow this wave of relaxation to move down through your arms into your hands and fingers. Feel it travel down your spine into your chest and abdomen. Let your breathing guide you. Each breath a wave carrying away stress and bringing in calm. The relaxation spreads through your hips, down into your thighs, your knees, calves, and finally your feet, all the way to your toes. Feel your entire body now, warm, relaxed, and at ease. With each breath, you sink deeper into comfort, ready to drift into the soothing tale that follows. Chapter 1: The Whispering Sands. In the far reach of the universe, on a planet bathed in endless sun and wrapped in perpetual twilight, there existed a world known as Kalimara. This world, covered in oceans of golden sand, was ancient beyond measure, its dunes whispering secrets of eons long past. The people of Kalimara lived in harmony with their harsh environment, their lives shaped by the rhythms of the desert. The sun ruled the day, its rays fierce and unyielding, but the night brought cool breezes and the tender light of twin moons that bathed the sands in silver. Life here was slow and deliberate, like the endless shifting of the dunes, and those who lived on Kalimara found peace in its constancy. Shalmara was a city of quiet beauty, where gardens bloomed amidst the sands and fountains whispered in the courtyards of grand palaces. In one such palace, within the house of Alicia, lived a young woman named Liora. She was the daughter of the matriarch, Lady Alicia, who was known throughout the planet as a wise and kind ruler. Liora, with her long dark hair and eyes the color of the desert sky at dusk, was beloved by all who knew her. She had a gentle spirit and a deep connection to the world around her, feeling the pulse of Kalimara in her very bones. Liora spent her days exploring the dunes that stretched beyond the city walls, her heart drawn to the wild beauty of the desert. She had always felt a deep affinity with the sands, as if they spoke to her in a language only she could understand. When the wind howled across the dunes, she heard it as a song. When the sun set, turning the sands to molten gold, she felt its warmth as a caress. It was during one of these solitary wanderings that Liora first heard the voice. She had ventured far from Shalmara to a place where the dunes rose high against the sky, their peaks sharp against the fading light. She stood at the crest of a dune, looking out over the vast expanse of desert, when she heard it, a soft, whispering sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Liora. The voice was like a breeze, light and fleeting, yet it carried with it a weight of ages. Liora froze, her heart pounding in her chest. She had heard the sands speak before, in the language of the wind and the shifting dunes, but never like this. This was something different, something more. Liora. The voice came again, a little stronger this time. Come, we are waiting. Without thinking, Liora began to move, her feet carrying her down the slope of the dune and out into the vastness of the desert. The voice guided her, pulling her forward with an invisible thread, and she followed without hesitation. It was as if she had been waiting for this moment her entire life, as if the sands had finally revealed the secret they had been keeping from her all these years. Chapter 2: The Hidden Oasis. Liora walked for what felt like hours, though time had a way of losing meaning in the endless desert. The twin moons had risen high in the sky, casting their pale light over the dunes, and still she walked, driven by the voice that called to her from just beyond the horizon. Finally, she reached a place where the sands began to shift beneath her feet, the ground growing softer, almost spongy. She paused, looking around in wonder. The air here was different, cooler and more humid, carrying the faint scent of water and greenery. She had stumbled upon a hidden oasis, a place where life thrived amidst the desolation of the desert. Tall, slender trees with silver bark rose from the sands, their leaves shimmering in the moonlight. A clear pool of water lay at the center of the grove, its surface still and glassy. Liora. The voice came again, and this time she knew it came from within the oasis. She stepped forward, moving through the trees until she reached the edge of the pool. There, standing on the water's surface as if it were solid ground, was a figure. It was a woman, tall and graceful, her form wreathed in shimmering light. Her hair flowed around her like liquid silver, and her eyes glowed with a soft inner light. "Who are you?" Liora asked, her voice barely more than a whisper. "I am Sirena," the woman replied, her voice like the gentle rustle of leaves. "I am the guardian of the sands, the keeper of the secrets that lie beneath them." Liora felt a thrill of recognition at the name. She had heard tales of Sirena, the ancient spirit said to watch over Kalimara, guiding those who were destined for greatness. "Why have you called me here?" Liora asked, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and excitement. Sirena smiled, a serene and knowing smile. "Because, Liora, you are the one who will bring balance to this world. The sands have chosen you, and it is time for you to embrace your destiny." My destiny? Liora echoed, her mind reeling. But I am just a girl, the daughter of a matriarch. What could I possibly do? You are more than you know, Liora, Sirena said, stepping forward so that she stood directly in front of Liora. You have a connection to the sands, to the very essence of this world. It is a gift, one that has been passed down through generations, waiting for the right moment to awaken. That moment is now. Liora felt a strange warmth spreading through her, starting in her chest and radiating outward to every part of her body. It was as if the sands themselves were embracing her, filling her with their ancient wisdom and strength. What must I do? She asked, her voice steady now, filled with a newfound resolve. Listen to the sands, Sirena replied. They will guide you. Trust in yourself and in the connection you share with this world. The path ahead will not be easy, but you are not alone. The sands will always be with you. With those words, Sirena began to fade, her form dissolving into the light until she was nothing more than a shimmer on the water's surface. Liora stood there for a long time, staring at the spot where Sirena had been, her mind racing. The sands had chosen her, but for what? What was this destiny that Sirena had spoken of? As she turned to leave the oasis, she felt a strange sense of peace settle over her. Whatever lay ahead, she knew she was ready. The sands had whispered their secrets to her, and now it was her turn to speak for them. Chapter 3. The journey begins. Liora returned to Kalimara the next morning, the first rays of dawn casting long shadows across the white walls of the city. She walked through the streets in a daze, her mind still reeling from the encounter with Sirena. The city seemed different now, smaller somehow, as if she had outgrown it overnight. When she reached the palace, she found her mother waiting for her in the courtyard. Lady Alicia was a tall woman with striking features, her hair a deep auburn that had only just begun to show streaks of silver. She was dressed in her usual flowing robes, the rich fabric embroidered with symbols of her house. "Where have you been, Liora?" her mother asked, her voice tinged with concern. "I was worried when you didn't return last night." Liora hesitated, unsure how to explain what had happened. How could she put into words the encounter with Sirena, the strange sense of destiny that now hung over her? "I was in the desert," she said finally. I found something, or rather, something found me." Lady Alicia's expression softened, and she stepped forward to take Leora's hands in her own. "Tell me, child, what did you find?" Liora took a deep breath, and then she told her mother everything: the voice in the desert, the hidden oasis, and the appearance of Sirena. As she spoke, Lady Alicia's eyes widened in shock and amazement, but she did not interrupt. When Liora finished, there was a long silence. Lady Alicia seemed to be lost in thought, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Sirena," she murmured finally. "I never thought I would hear that name again." "You know of her?" Liora asked, surprised. "Only in legend," her mother replied. "She is said to be the spirit of the sands, the guardian of Kalimara. There are stories passed down through our family that speak of a time when Sirena would choose someone to restore balance to the world. I never believed them to be more than myths." "But it's real," Liora said, her voice trembling slightly. "She spoke to me, Mother. She told me that I have a destiny, that the sands have chosen me for something." Lady Alicia looked at her daughter, her eyes filled with a mixture of pride and fear. "If what you say is true, Liora, then you have a great responsibility. The world is changing, and you may be the key to that change. But you must be careful. There are those who would seek to use your power for their own ends." "I know," Liora said, her voice firm. "But I can't ignore this, Mother. I have to find out what it means." Lady Alicia nodded slowly. "Very well. But you will not do this alone. I will help you, as will our family. We will stand by you no matter what lies ahead." Liora felt a surge of gratitude and relief at her mother's words. She had been prepared to face this journey alone. But now she knew she would not have to. With her family by her side, she felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. And so the preparations began. Liora spent the next few days gathering supplies and studying ancient texts that her mother provided, trying to learn as much as she could about the history of Kalimara and the legends of Sirena. She learned of the ancient wars that had once torn the planet apart, of the factions that had risen and fallen, and of the delicate balance that had been maintained ever since. But there was little in the texts about what she was meant to do now. The legends spoke of a chosen one, but they were vague about what that person's role would be. It seemed that the answers would have to come from the sands themselves. Finally, the day came when Liora was ready to set out. She stood at the gates of Kalimara, her pack slung over her shoulder, and looked out at the endless expanse of the desert before her. The sun was just rising, casting a warm glow over the dunes, and the wind was still, as if the world were holding its breath. Lady Alicia stood beside her, her hand resting on Liora's shoulder. "Remember, Liora," she said softly, "you are never truly alone. The sands will guide you, and we will be with you in spirit." Liora nodded, her heart swelling with emotion. She embraced her mother tightly, and then, with a final deep breath, she stepped out into the desert. The journey had begun. Chapter 4: The Song of the Sands. As Liora ventured deeper into the desert, the vastness of the sands began to envelop her, their golden expanse stretching out in all directions. The world became a symphony of subtle sounds: the crunch of her boots on the soft ground, the distant sigh of the wind, and the gentle shifting of the dunes as they danced in the sunlight. She had no clear destination in mind, only the knowledge that the sands would guide her to where she needed to be. The sun climbed higher in the sky, but Liora felt no discomfort. The warmth of the day wrapped around her like a comforting blanket, and the coolness of the night would soon follow, offering its own soothing embrace. Days passed in a peaceful rhythm. Liora walked by day and rested by night, her sleep filled with vivid dreams of the desert. In these dreams, she saw the sands as living things, each grain a tiny spark of consciousness, a fragment of the ancient spirit that Sirena embodied. The sands spoke to her in these dreams, not in words, but in feelings and images, flashes of insight that left her with a deeper understanding of the world around her. One night, as she lay beneath the twin moons, she heard the sands singing. The sound was faint at first, just a whisper on the edge of her consciousness, but it grew louder, more distinct, until it filled her entire being. It was a song of creation, a hymn to the birth of the world and the endless cycles of life that followed. Liora listened, captivated by the beauty of it, and as she did, she felt something shift within her. The song resonated with a part of her soul that had been dormant until now, awakening a power that had been waiting for the right moment to emerge. When she awoke the next morning, she felt different, stronger, more attuned to the world around her. She could sense the subtle currents of energy that flowed through the sands, the ebb and flow of life that sustained the desert. It was as if she had been blind all her life and had suddenly gained sight. With this newfound awareness came a deeper understanding of her purpose. The balance of Kalimara was fragile, maintained by forces both seen and unseen, and it was her task to protect that balance. The sands had chosen her not just to be a guardian, but to be a part of the world's healing, to mend the rifts that threatened to tear it apart. Chapter 5. The Desert's Heart. As Liora continued her journey, she found herself drawn to a distant range of mountains that loomed in the horizon. The mountains were said to be the home of the ancient ones, the first beings to walk the sands of Kalimara, and the source of the planet's deepest mysteries. The closer she got to the mountains, the more she felt a pull in her chest, a sense of urgency that told her she was nearing something important. The sands beneath her feet seemed to hum with energy, as if they, too, were eager to reach the mountains. On the 7th day, she arrived at the base of the mountains, where the desert gave way to a rocky landscape. The air here was cooler, the wind sharper, and the sky seemed to press down on her with an almost tangible weight. She found a narrow path that wound its way up the mountain, and she began to climb, her steps slow and steady. The path was steep and treacherous, but Liora felt no fear. The sands had brought her here for a reason, and she trusted in their guidance. After several hours of climbing, she reached a plateau where the path widened into a broad expanse of smooth stone. At the far end of the plateau stood a massive stone archway, its surface covered in intricate carvings that glowed faintly in the twilight. Liora approached the archway, her heart pounding in her chest. As she drew closer, she saw that the carvings depicted scenes from the history of Kalimara, battles fought in the sands, great beasts that roamed the desert, and figures clad in flowing robes who seemed to command the very elements. At the center of the archway was a symbol she recognized from her dreams, a spiral of sand, the emblem of Sirena. It pulsed with a soft golden light, and as Liora reached out to touch it, the light spread outwards, filling the entire archway with a warm, inviting glow. Taking a deep breath, Liora stepped through the archway. Chapter 6. The Eternal City. On the other side of the archway, Liora found herself standing on the edge of a vast, sunken valley. At the center of the valley was a city unlike any she had ever seen. An ancient metropolis carved from the living rock of the mountains, its towers rising high into the sky, their surface covered in the same glowing carvings as the archway. The city was bathed in a soft, golden light that seemed to emanate from the very stone itself, and the air was filled with the sound of distant music, a haunting melody that echoed through the valley. Liora felt a deep sense of awe as she gazed upon the city. This was the heart of Kalimara, the place where the ancient ones had first made their home and where the secrets of the sands were kept. She descended into the valley, following a winding path that led to the gates of the city. As she approached, the gates swung open as if in welcome, and she stepped inside. The city was a place of quiet beauty, its streets lined with statues and fountains, its buildings adorned with intricate mosaics that shimmered in the light. The air was cool and fragrant, filled with the scent of blooming flowers and the soft rustle of leaves. As Liora walked through the streets, she felt a strange sense of familiarity, as if she had been here before in another life. The city was empty, but she did not feel alone. The presence of the ancient ones was all around her, a comforting presence that filled her with a sense of peace. At the center of the city was a great plaza where a tall, slender tower rose into the sky. The tower was the tallest structure in the city, its surface covered in the same glowing carvings as the archway and the buildings. At its base was a large circular door, its surface smooth and unmarked. Liora approached the door, her heart racing with anticipation. She placed her hand on the smooth stone, and as she did, the door began to glow, its surface rippling like water. A moment later, it dissolved, revealing a dark passageway that led deep into the heart of the tower. With a deep breath, Liora stepped inside. Chapter 7: The Chamber of Secrets. The passageway was narrow and winding, its walls covered in the same glowing carvings that adorned the rest of the city. As Liora made her way deeper into the tower, the air grew cooler and the light from the carvings grew brighter, illuminating her path. Finally, she reached a large circular chamber at the heart of the tower. The chamber was empty, save for a single pedestal in the center, upon which rested a small, glowing orb. Liora approached the pedestal, her heart pounding in her chest. The orb was warm to the touch, and as she held it in her hands, she felt a surge of energy coursing through her. Images flashed before her eyes, scenes from the history of Kalimara, battles fought in the sands, great beasts that roamed the desert, and the figures clad in flowing robes, who had commanded the elements. She saw the rise and fall of empires, the birth and death of stars, and the endless cycles of creation and destruction that had shaped the world. And then she saw herself standing in the desert, her hands raised to the sky as the sands swirled around her, forming a great spiral that reached up to the heavens. The image was so vivid, so real, that she could almost feel the sand beneath her feet, the wind in her hair. When the vision faded, Liora found herself back in the chamber, the orb still glowing in her hands. She understood now. The orb was a key, a conduit for the power of the sands, and it was her task to use it to restore balance in the world. With a deep sense of purpose, Liora placed the orb back on the pedestal. The carvings on the walls began to glow brighter, filling the chamber with a warm, golden light. She felt the energy of the sands flowing through her, filling her with a sense of strength and clarity. She knew what she had to do. Chapter 8: The Return. Liora left the city with a renewed sense of purpose. She carried the knowledge of the ancient ones within her, their wisdom guiding her as she made her way back through the mountains and across the desert. The journey back to Kalimara was peaceful, the sands welcoming her with open arms. She felt a deep connection to the world around her, a sense of unity with the desert and all its inhabitants. When she finally reached the gates of Kalimara, she was greeted with joy and relief by her family. Lady Alicia embraced her daughter tightly, her eyes filled with pride. "You have returned," she said softly. "What have you learned?" Liora smiled, her heart filled with warmth. "I have learned that the sands are not just a part of our world, but a part of us. They carry the wisdom of ages, and they have chosen us to protect that wisdom." Lady Alicia nodded, her eyes shining with tears. "And what will you do now?" "I will do what the sands have guided me to do," Liora replied. "I will restore balance to our world, and I will ensure that the secrets of the sands are kept safe for future generations." And so, with the support of her family and the guidance of the sands, Liora set out to fulfill her destiny. She traveled across Kalimara, using the power of the orb to heal the rifts that threatened the world, to bring peace to the warring factions, and to protect the delicate balance of the desert. The sands whispered their secrets to her, and she listened, her heart open and her mind clear. She became a beacon of hope, a symbol of the unity between the people of Kalimara and the desert that was their home. As the years passed, the world of Kalimara flourished. The sands, once a harsh and unforgiving landscape, became a place of beauty and abundance where life thrived and the ancient wisdom of the desert was honored and respected. And through it all, Liora remained true to her purpose, guided by the sands and the spirit of Sirena. She knew that her journey was far from over, but she faced the future with confidence and peace, knowing that she was never truly alone. For as long as the sands whispered their secrets, as long as the desert remained, Liora would be there, a guardian of the world she loved and a protector of the ancient wisdom that had been entrusted to her care. And so, the story of Liora, the chosen of the sands, became a legend that would be told for generations, a soothing tale of balance, wisdom, and the enduring power of the desert.